bombing of 2013 was the largest terrorist attack since 9/11. Since then, federal agents have done an outstanding job of preventing attacks here in America. The Boston Marathon is a run that is held annually. It averages 36,000 runners, and on the date of the bombing, there were over 32,000 runners expected that day, not counting spectators. April 15th, 2013, near the finish line of the Boston Marathon, a loud explosion occurred. Seconds after, a second explosion. The explosions killed 3 people and wounded more than 260 others. The people of Boston came together and immediately started giving first aid and clearing the scene and helping the sick and wounded. First responders quickly set up triage stations, helping the injured, while the investigators also make sure the spectators and runners were safe from other harm. Immediately after the victims were moved to several hospitals in the area, the investigation began. Federal, local, and state investigators came in to scour the scene and try to find evidence of who could have done this. Several pieces of evidence were found and collected at the scene, including shrapnel, several pieces of metal that they determined came from pressure cooker type bombs, and so the investigation began at that point. There were several surveillance videos around the marathon bombing. A lot of those videos were reviewed, and 2 suspects were popping up on the videos continuously, both of whom were carrying backpacks, which was suspicious. The Boston Police Department, as well as the FBI, used social media to put the pictures of the suspects out there to try to have them identified. The suspects were quickly identified as brothers, Jahar Tsarnaev and Tamerlan Tsarnaev, both living in the Boston area at the time. Immediately after the suspects were identified, the manhunt begins. Local, state, and federal agents all took part in finding and apprehending the suspects. In the early hours of Friday, April 19th, 2 suspects hijacked a man in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They take the driver as hostage. The suspects tell the driver that they had committed the Boston Marathon bombings and that they were heading towards New York. The victim gets away, calls police, and they use a GPS tracker on the car to find the suspects. When the police approach the suspects, a gun battle ensues. One suspect is killed on the scene, Tamerlan, as Jahar Tsarnaev takes another vehicle and flees the scene. The police put the city on lockdown while they search for Jahar Tsarnaev. They search all day, approximately 12 hours, and in the early part of the evening, they lift the lockdown. Shortly after the lockdown had been lifted, a homeowner goes out to check his property. He finds blood on his boat, calls police, who who determined that there is someone hiding inside of the boat underneath the cover. Police are dispatched to a location where a standoff ensues. Shortly thereafter, Jahar Tsarnaev comes out and gives himself up to police. Jahar Tsarnaev is charged in the United States District Court for the District of Massachusetts. One of his many charges are weapons of mass destruction. He is later found guilty of these charges, and he is given the death penalty. Law enforcement on all levels, local, state, and federal, did a great job at identifying, apprehending, trying, and finding the suspects of this crime guilty.